Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to the Bump Trust and Pray podcast. I am your host, Pedro Barbosa, and with me I have my good friend, Earl Goddard. Good evening, Earl. I'm very good. And yourself? Did you enjoy our shenanigans of the weekend? A weekend at Monaco, let's say. Oh, apparently we're having technical difficulties. Yeah. Yes, we are. Because nothing is going through to the stream. So that's always good. So just sorry to everyone for the but not on YouTube probably, I think. Just your sound that's not working. Yeah, that's my department. So sorry everyone for that. I'll change it to this and this talk. And nothing's still working, so that's going well. We started 100% well. Sorry guys, new software, and apparently it's not really working. So we're going to do it like this, and probably like oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I'm very, very sorry, guys. I am, let's say, a dumbass. So you're now on.
Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Let's do it again. So welcome everyone. Welcome to the Bomb Shot and Pray podcast. I am your host, Pedro Barbosa, and with me, Earl. Let's not pretend that I messed up. I messed up really badly the intro. So hello.
Nothing to see here. Move on.
Yeah, move on. My amazing software, new software, was, let's say, not 100% working right now, but now it is, and it's amazing. So welcome all. So did you enjoy our Monaco holiday or Monaco weekend?
Yeah, I think Monaco was good. Well, we always like Monaco, don't we? Because let's be honest, it's scary to watch them at some of the speeds they go around such a tight track. But we also know there's going to be some epic shunts. So you sort of, the crash factor for Monaco is always a good one.
Yes, a very good one, and a very high possibility of that happening. And like,
and then the slow mos of the front tires brushing the barriers at the swimming pool section. Yeah, every year they come out and you just go, oh, awesome.
Yes, very much awesome. So yeah, we came into the weekend and we had huge news from the world of F1. The first big news was Honda and Aston are going to join forces from 2026 onwards. So when the current deal with Red Bull is over, Red Bull is of course going into the Ford / Red Bull powertrains route. and we're going to have Honda in Aston. Not like we thought that they might go with McLaren, but no. Apparently, they feel more comfortable with going with Aston. What do we think about this particular move?
It shows the intent that Aston have. You know, they're not here to make up numbers. 2026 is a long way off to say how, with the engine change, I'm not sure what engine changes are coming in the regs.
If it's turbo hybrid 6 still, but the batteries are going to be the hybrid part is going to be at least 50% of the energy available of the power available to the wheels, and there we're going to have synthetic 100% synthetic fuel.
So it's quite a way off to then say that the Honda is going to be as good as it is now. Much like you could say the Mercedes isn't as good as it was a few seasons back. So I think it's a good, solid move. It's another big name, and an Aston Martin Civic would be nice.
Not the worst idea.
But yeah, I think like we said, Red Bull have decided to go with Ford. So for Honda, if they're going to stay in there, they're not going to do their own team again. They've been there, done that. So if you're looking at the grid now going, we need to find someone to put our engines into, Aston's probably the best people you're going to look at. Because everyone else is either a manufacturer.
Yeah, and I think I said this yesterday, and I think I'm not mistaken in thinking that Aston already has a small department power unit wise. I think they had a little bit of a they tried and see if the potential of building their own gearboxes, I think, so that they can do the rear suspension how they wanted, not like they do now that they buy it's all Mercedes rear end. And what we're hearing from Honda is like it's not like Honda is going to suddenly be going to expand the amounts of money that they did when they came back into Formula One with McLaren and spent millions and hundreds of millions of dollars into developing the engine. So that might be another reason why they went with Aston and not with McLaren, like everyone was saying that it was a possibility. Because let's face it, McLaren is not swimming in a river of money.
And let's be honest, would you, as a Honda, if you're the guy making the decision, would you go back to McLaren after what happened the last time? And Fernando with the GP2 engine comments, and would you really go back to that team?
That's funny because Fernando is at.
In Fernando's, the thing is, yeah, we know Fernando's going to do what Fernando does, but you got to put more of the blame on the team for making the car quicker. But yeah.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and we discussed privately in our team's Discord that we are not expecting Fernando to be there. But that said, I would not put money into that. Let's just say, Fernando being Fernando, he might he might surprise us, let's say.
I think he's got a couple more years left in him, especially if the Aston stays as competitive as it is next year and the year after. I think he'll stay for another couple of years, try and sneak a third or at least sneak some race wins. But yeah, I can't see him staying for the next reg swap. That's too much of a risk.
Yeah.
And
yeah, probably not going to happen.
And let's not take it. He's very good at falling out with teams, and Lawrence Stoll is very good at telling people to get their coat and leave.
Let's face it, it's his money, so
Exactly. So Fernando's playing it very clever with all these little tell Lance to try this, break balance. Oh, that was a good move by Lance, but he's playing the team game in his own interest. But as soon as something happens, anti-Lance or he just has a bad comment about something, I can see Lawrence telling him to Foxtrot Oscar.
Oh, that definitely can happen. The thing that he has for him about that is that he's probably not feeling threatened by Lance, nor will he be threatened by Lance in the future, probably.
No, it would just be him saying something, wouldn't it?
Yeah, probably going to happen. But let's see. What do you think that this means for McLaren? Because I think everyone thinks that you have to be not a power unit customer to get to the top, and McLaren wants to go to the top. What are going to be the options for McLaren to going forward, let's say?
Well, they've not got many options, have they?
Audi? But it's a customer as well, so.
Yeah, Audi is plausible.
Mercedes, thinking of Mercedes as well, but I don't know. I don't see a way out for them, unless there's a certain team that is separated between France and the UK that might not be there when the regulations change, let's say, and they've been known to drop the Formula One team, but continuing building engines and being successful at that.
I would say that's probably the most likely one because, let's not joke, Alpine's boss has not been happy and has been very critical of the team in the last couple of weeks. So if they don't pull their finger out consistently and we don't have one-hit wonders, I think they're liable to stay. But if they have a bad season and are consistently fluctuating, he's just going to say, see you later. And then it is more realistic that put Renault engines back into McLaren.
And that ties a little bit into the next rumor. A rumor, not next rumor, because the fact that Aston is going to be with Honda is a fact. What is a rumor is that the Alfa Romeo name will continue in F1 for the next season. So they are going to be dropped by Sauber, because Sauber is now Audi, basically. So the deal is off for 2024. And there's been a rumor that another team that has a very strong presence at Italy and very strong ties with Ferrari is going to take the Alfa Romeo name, and that team is of course Haas. Um, s
An American Alfa Romeo.
an American Alfa Romeo. So yeah, we were discussing yesterday in the Portuguese podcast that it doesn't make much sense for Alfa Romeo to be spending all of this money in F1, but does a brand that has multiple cars and some sports cars and SUVs, because everyone has an SUV, even Ferrari has SUVs right now, and Lambo, which still bothers me.
Is wrong.
Very wrong. I mean, the old
There's only one
Lambo,
kind of
the
Lambo.
old Lambo tank thing that they did was kind of cool. The 80s Lambo tank thing.
The only Lambo is a sports car, hypercar that you would see drawn by a 10-year-old and put on their wall. That is a Lamborghini.
Yeah.
Not a people carrier. Nothing.
Yeah.
Ferrari, yeah, they can do whatever they want. They're Ferrari, and their cars just look good. Lambo it's
Silly cars.
Yeah, it's like Zonda. They're stupid cars for the mega wealthy, Pagani and stuff like that, where they're just not sensible in any way, which is what they should be. They shouldn't be comfortable. They should be slow. And we're not talking about F1, so.
No, but it ties into that notion because Alfa Romeo has cars to sell. Multiple now they went into a very low spot a few years ago, but now they are quite a strong brand. They have multiple models to sell. And Alpine doesn't. Alpine has one car. And it's not, I've heard that sales are not going that well with that car. So it doesn't make much sense for me, the Alpine name being in F1. And in WEC, we just saw a glimpse of the WEC car. So I don't, and I think WEC is probably better for the brand. Better than F1.
100%.
100%. So yeah, it doesn't make much sense for that team to continue with the Alpine name, and I doubt that the name Renault is going to be back as a full-on race team, and I don't see any other brands within the Renault family that can really come back. I don't know. Nissan is kind of, or was until the scandal with the whole presidency of the group. So it doesn't make much sense. So that might be one way out for McLaren to continue with Renault names and Alpine.
Mm-hmm.
Let's face it, the Enstone team has value as a sellable asset. Maybe they can find another American team that they can sell to.
I think there's another American that might be looking.
Yeah, Mr. Andretti.
I think there's a couple of them, yeah.
And a certain brand called Cadillac that might enjoy, but they are building a factory, right? Allegedly in Europe, even. Aren't they?
Yeah, I don't know.
I've heard something about that. So yeah, let's quit the rumors. The other rumor is Hamilton Ferrari, but that's old news, and we already talked about a certain Mr. Leclerc visiting another team last episode, and
it's in quite well, didn't it?
Yeah, but
let's be honest. I don't see why he would go let's forget about why Ferrari would have him, because he'd be very much like Ronaldo in football. You have him for the shirt sales, like Beckham used to be. It's not so much the on-pitch performance, but what you'd make marketing-wise is phenomenal. The only way I can see him going, or I would see him going to Ferrari, because he wants to drive a Ferrari, irrespective of how bad or slow it is, whether he's... Do you know what I mean? It's that boyhood dream that he will drive a Ferrari at some point. It's the only reason he would go.
That said, he has said that he doesn't have that urge to drive a Ferrari.
But it's
and
the only
he
reason
has
you
been
go.
with Mercedes all of his career, and it's kind of fairy tale to only drive Mercedes.
Yeah, he will. I mean, he's been backed by him since he's a youngin'. Always had Mercedes motors, and let's be honest, they're going to pay him a hell of a lot of money when he retires to turn up at the odd press conference and give him a wave.
Merc are very known to be very good to their old drivers.
Well, yeah,
Sir Sterling Moss was with them all of his life.
You still see Hakkinen is still used by Merc.
Yeah.
Coulthard not so much.
Yeah, Coulthard is a Red Bull man. Let's face it. He's kind of one of the architects of that project. So, yeah. He's one of the reasons that we have Newey at Red Bull, or probably the main reason we have Newey at Red Bull. And Newey, I just heard a interview that Red Bull now has a podcast, and Newey was just there, and he says openly that it was basically Coulthard saying, yeah, they are the party guys, but they are serious about this, and they are going to win championships. And that's what made Newey go to Red Bull, which is kind of, yeah, it's a funny thing to think about Newey. His moves from teams to teams has always been very much tied into the drivers that he likes to work with. Like Damon when Williams dropped Damon Hill, he was not happy with that, and a couple of seasons later he was out of there. He went to McLaren, and he liked David Coulthard, and he was off, and then he convinced him to go to Red Bull. I know that he wanted partnership with both Williams and McLaren, if I'm not mistaken, and Ron Dennis basically made him go away with his different structure of the team shenanigans that he did back then. But kind of funny that such a powerful and brilliant designer has been always motivated by drivers to go from team to team.
Yeah, I think it's just working environment to a degree, as opposed to, but yeah, let's not discount the fact that every time he moved to where he went, got a very fast car in 2 years later.
Yeah, he's one of those guys. Let's not turn this again into a Adrian Newey fan club podcast. So, yeah. Have you ever driven one of his cars? No.
97 Williams.
That's
a Newey.
That's a Newey, yeah. He was there from very early. He's there from like 91.
I want to say
to
later
98.
Yeah, so that was it. Yeah. I think I want to say Leighton House. I know we had the first one, the Leighton House design in the workshop. I can't remember if I drove it or not.
Oh, that's brutal, man.
I know I sat in it because it's about the only time I've ever sat in a racing car and felt big. It was so small.
It felt
Chassis.
like it felt like you had a
my
mustache and
shoulders
was
were
in a
tucked in.
McLaren.
My shoulders were tucked in. Yeah, it was tiny. But different rules those days. No impact structures, no crash structures. Just make it nice and pretty and small. Go, go, go.
And your face was the impact structure. Uh, so yeah, we went to the weekend. We finally have a Mercedes with side pods. So the update that was supposed to come for Imola came to here because Imola was a no-go because of the floods, and I think we all think that was a good decision.
100%.
100%, and a very good sign that F1 made that decision early in the week, and not repeat the 2019, 2020, when was COVID starting? 2020. 2020 Australian Grand Prix confusion, let's say.
Yeah, no, it was definitely handled correctly this time.
Yeah, very correctly. And so they got their updates to here, and it meant that we know nothing about the updates apart from the car actually looks like an F1 car now.
Yeah, well, they've added side pods, but they've also changed the front suspension as well to more Red Bull-esque.
Yeah,
it just changing the pitch of the front. So, I mean, they weren't. I suppose Monaco is a difficult one because you don't. It's not. It's never going to have a downforce factor purely on aero. So, Barcelona is going to be interesting.
Yeah, we're probably going to have a better picture of what that car is capable of there.
Yeah,
the other thing that I'm not certain is that you talked about the front suspension. Currently, they so that they wouldn't have to basically do a new chassis. They went and cut stuff up from the chassis that they had and glued stuff up. So, I mean, I guess it's way more complicated than that and better.
It's and it isn't,
made.
but yeah.
But it kind of sounds like weird to me, at least, because everything is done to the millimeter on a CNC machining and all that stuff, and then you basically change suspension mounting points on a finished chassis. Doesn't sound that good. They must have a very good reason for doing that.
Cost cap.
Yeah, apart from the cost cap, but doing those changes on a chassis, and I mean, they are very good people on those teams, but there's always a risk that doesn't go all that well, let's say.
Yeah.
So they must have a very good performance indicator. That might be a risk worth taking.
Yeah, I think it's a case of if this doesn't get them somewhere closer, there's not really a lot more to do. Is the sort of feeling I get from it. It's like, how much more performance? Where can they find the performance? Because they can't just keep ramping up the side pods because it's the whole ethos of the car, how it works from front to back, top to bottom, and there's only so much you can copy what's working without having to change the whole car. And in a cost cap era, So, how much further can they go if this doesn't work? Oh, don't know.
Yeah, we'll have to wait for Barcelona for that. It's this weekend, so we don't have to wait all that much. But that said,
They were quick at
philosophy.
Monaco. You know, they were quick at Monaco. They were where we would expect them to be. Top three, top four teams.
Yeah.
On the current pace thing, but also, well, I think it was in the top 10 were covered by a couple of tenths or something silly like that.
In qualifying, it was 1 second, top 10, basically. Not even that, 9 tenths. And Lando didn't do a lap, let's say, because he had damage. I must admit that I slept basically through Q1 and Q2, so I only watched 6 minutes of qualifying.
But he clipped the barrier at swimming pool. I think he clipped the barrier at the swimming pool and broke the tow rod.
Yeah, and they did one try, and that didn't go all that well. And on his second side through the tunnel, he was impeded by Leclerc. It was kind of a scary moment because Charles didn't know he was there, and then swerved to the middle of the track, which was even doing it like it was just a mess.
It was. Excuse me. Jensen was saying it was it's the unwritten rule between the drivers, gentleman's agreement. You never slow down in the tunnel. So what Charles was doing, I don't know. And also, his team should have been telling him it's qualifying.
Yeah, go faster because you can't. It's a totally blind corner. Yeah. Totally blind corner and full throttle corner. You cannot be there and then swerve to the middle of the track when there's a car coming through. Yeah. So we agree it's totally worth the 3-place grid penalty they had.
100%. Yeah.
That's good. We're not arguing. So yeah, then in qualifying, the other thing, we had 2 more things. We have both Alpines on Q3, and with good pace, with very good pace. And we have the battle for pole between Fernando Alonso and Max Verstappen. That was very close as well. Like not even 1/10. Where Fernando had the pace in the first 2 sectors, and then that Red Bull was just flying through third sector.
Thing is, I did, as much as love him or hate him, Mr. Verstappen, because I didn't sleep through this bit. And so Max was 2 tenths down. He needed 2 tenths in the last sector, which is an 18-second sector.
Yeah.
That's huge. And I'll be honest, I wish, because I went, that's it, Fernando's got a pole. Happy days. This makes for an interesting race tomorrow. But yeah, that's not the Red Bull, that's Max. That was 100%. 3 or 4 of this, because I think the second sector starts just after the swimming pool. The third sector, sorry.
Third sector.
So you fly through the swimming pool, and then it's actually some of the slowest corners, barring the hairpin on the circuit, and that was just all him.
Yeah, throwing into the corners.
That was just all him. It was, I say, love him or hate him, you cannot dispute the driving skill he had there, and just, I mean, he went full esports, driving into the wall on the start-finish straight.
Yeah, it was scary, that part.
And the fact that he's like, I hit the wall. So you didn't hit the wall, you drove into the wall. And yeah, I must say, I applauded that one. That was a hell of a sector.
Yeah, and it's made for a very good end of qualifying. Did you get the feeling that I got? I got the feeling that car was very good on that last sector all weekend, and that he went pretty conservative, like Max wise, not conservative any driver wise, but he just wanted to be
think he
close
saved his
enough.
tires.
Yeah, so close enough on the first 2 sectors and then just smashed third sector because he knew that he had the tires and he had the performance advantage on that last part of
he was definitely quick there all week. I think the Ferraris had sector 1 sort of nailed, and then I think it was the Alpine at one point that was sector 2.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think it was calculated, but I don't think calculated for that last run. I think the last run, he just held back a little bit in sector 2, but yeah, I mean,
because Fernando got purple in first and second sector, so he got purple on those 2 and Max on the third. So yeah, it was crazy lap. And there's some very good videos online. F1 has one with both onboards. That's not the best one that I saw. The best one that I saw was a 3D mock-up of the lap with both cars, with the lines and the speed that they went into. That one is amazing. Amazing to see, and to see how Max throws the car into the last sector. It's just mind blowing.
It was full send.
Totally full send. So yeah, that meant that Max got pole for once, and let's talk just about a certain Mr. Mexican Minister of Defense, isn't it? That he was Minister of the Wall this week.
Yeah, I think they said he was something like 15 k's faster than he should have been into the first corner. You know, he was some ridiculous amount over, and it's like, we don't know what he was thinking. Because I think they said on the commentary that into T1, even if you're like 2 or 3 k's over the speed you should be, you struggle. And apparently he was something ridiculously over it. So I don't know, maybe a bit of pressure, because also he's got the reputation of a street circuit
specialist.
So, but yeah, definitely, it's a weekend for him to forget.
Yeah, and he must have gone into the briefing and got a very hard slap, because everyone got to see the Red Bull's floor. That very detailed floor.
Yeah, but I've seen that on Facebook as well, and I think as a couple of people, there's a lot more factors. Yes, the clever people at the other teams will be able to draw something from it. How much they can actually implement without.
Oh, I'm not saying they're going to implement this year, or if they even can win their cars, but they are definitely going to have a very good study of that floor.
But then that's the trouble at Monaco. Too many cranes.
Yeah, too many cranes, and if you crash, you're going to be craned out of there. So yeah, with Charles Leclerc's driver penalty, we got Mr. Esteban Ocon going into the third spot of the grid. Now race-wise, I think the main topic we have to talk about is the rain. Probably because that spiced up the race. It was not a boring race even before that. It was not like it was one of those. It was, let's say, it was not Baku.
No, it was a strategic race. As soon as you saw Alonso was starting on hards, from the race win point of view, as soon as you saw Alonso was on hards, it was okay. They're going to go long, and there's no point trying to race Max to the first corner. Fernando knows his pace, knows his strategy. Run long, and they know they could do the whole race on one set of tyres. to wait and just stay as close to Max so that when he pits, get track position. Just play the track position game. And it was working very well.
Until we got rain and
he missed it by about 30 seconds, didn't it?
Yeah, because he came in and got a new set of medium tires instead of going into inters. So they gambled on the idea that it was not going to rain all that much, and the parts of the track, because even though it's a very small track, we had very heavy rain in one part of the circuit, and the other part of the circuit was almost dry.
And that's the thing. And when he pitted, it was 100% the right call.
Yeah.
Stay on mediums or stay on slicks. Bang.
30 seconds later.
I think, exactly. 30 seconds there, and it's like, game over.
But yeah, I told this yesterday. I don't really judge neither Fernando or Aston very hard on that, because let's face it, they had the buffer back to do 2 pit stops like they did and maintain second place.
It's nothing against them. It's no different to Lando in Sochi.
Yeah.
Could have won the race, and it was
worse, Lando in Sochi.
It was worse. But it was that thing of you've got to make the call as you sit in there in the situation. But yeah, no, it's not a bad decision. It was just unlucky.
Yeah, very unlucky. So that didn't work. Max almost crashed as well. He did crash, but he almost totaled the car.
I mean, it was some serious iRacing going on.
Oh yeah, definitely. So that's something to hold on to, the thought when rain comes to iRacing. That's definitely going to happen quite a few times.
Oh yes.
So it was just on the corner previous to the tunnel. I don't know what's the name of the corner.
Yeah, just after the hairpin.
After a hairpin, you have the right corner, right. And then right. Yeah. So between the two rights, he went wide and clipped the barrier on the outside, on the left side, and he hit it just right that it didn't screw the car. So that might be
a bit of luck on his side as well.
Yeah. He had a very good, let's say, he had a little star above him all weekend, that he could just do little touches. It was just the right amount of aggression with the barriers and luck. In this part was luck because he aquaplaned completely into the barrier. So then it was done because Fernando had to pit 2 times. Max pitted 2 inters, so race over, lead wise.
Yeah, Max was just on it, and I think the more important one I like is Lando's pace towards the end of the race.
Yeah, because Lando did the same thing as Fernando. He pitted for a new set of, I think it was hard tires, because he was on the mediums. Started on the mediums, and then had to pit again for inters, and that put him, P12, something like that.
Yeah, it was quite way down.
And then he came up through the field. Yeah.
So they've got something going in that McLaren, right? But again, is it one of those factors of not being aero-based circuit, and also if you look to the guys that are considered to be the drivers in the champion, your Maxes and Hamiltons and Lando, those were the ones that when it rained, who were the fastest boys at the top there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you know that I rate Lando very highly.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, so do I. Yeah.
And that boy deserves a better car and deserves to be fighting for wins and championships. So let's hope he gets that. Either it is at McLaren or where he will eventually end up. Ferrari.
Ferrari with science.
We will
The bromance is back.
Carlando bromance. Let's make it happen. For the first time in my life, I'll be a Ferrari fanboy if that happens. I will. I promise here that I'll do a podcast with a Ferrari shirt. I promise. I promise.
With a Ferrari, fucking.
Yeah. If Lando goes Ferrari, I'll buy a fucking Ferrari shirt. I promise. if they this is so funny, but I'm not going to rant on about this on the podcast. I'll tell you later. Or we'll do a Q&A or something like that in the future, and I'll tell the story that I have about Ferrari and Ferrari gear and apparel. So yeah, you had pace. One driver that had very good pace throughout the weekend, and when it rained, when he switched to the inter tires, he had good pace, but then he lost all pace. Was Tsunoda. What happened there? He was good all race, all weekend when he changed to inters, and it was good, and then suddenly he had no brakes.
Something went wrong with his brake system, I think, because Yuki qualified top 10, didn't he? Qualified P9?
P9?
Yeah, Yuki had a solid weekend. Well, Yuki and Ocon, those were probably my two standouts from the weekend, above your usual suspects. But yeah, little Yuki was flying, and obviously you hear his radio and he just said the brakes suck. And the fact they retired him, didn't they?
I don't think so. He ended up placed.
No, it was Magnussen they retired. It was Magnussen.
Magnussen, yeah. He ended up in front of Sergio.
But if his brakes, it's like if you've not got brakes to the point where you feel like you can stop, you're never going to do anything. And you just, as he did, he just kept going off, because when do you put, especially if he's got a fault with inconsistent braking, where 1 minute it does it how it should do, the next minute it doesn't, or only does 50%, and in the wet, it's like, don't blame him for getting a bit irate on the radio.
I definitely don't blame him. And right above these drivers, this sort of field, we had a driver that had a very good initial part of race, or almost all race, and then just had two mistakes. One potentially big, but then ended up being little mistake, and one big mistake, which was Carlos Sainz, Mr. Carlos Sainz, that his almost big mistake was coming out of the tunnel into Ocon. He was faster than Ocon all race, and he had a moment that he broke his front wing.
Yeah.
But still had pace, even with a broken front wing. And then he aquaplaned into, what's the corner called? I don't know. Just before he had
Mirabeau. Is it Mirabeau?
Yeah, when you have to swerve that bump on the left side, and then that corner. So yeah. Unfortunate,
a bit of up and down weekend, but again, didn't he fall foul of Ferrari strategy again?
Yeah, I think this was the first time this year that it was really painful.
Because wasn't he on the same strategy as Alonso, hards?
Yeah, I think so. He had hard.
He was in hard. So
he was going long, and then Ocon pitted, and Ferrari responded to Ocon, but pretended that they responded to Hamilton, that he was miles behind. He just said,
Yeah,
I don't care about Hamilton, I will care about Ocon.
And yeah, he should have stayed out, and that messed his race up.
Completely.
Because I remember when Ocon pitted, he had pace, and he sort of released him into a nice big gap of fresh air. And so yeah, the Ferrari strikes again.
Definitely strikes again. And the other driver that was up for a podium after all of the shenanigans was Mr. George Russell, and then he messed it all up into the same corner on Inters. It was on Inters already. So it wasn't like Carlos that he aquaplaned with dry tires. He aquaplaned with Inter, so he must have miscalculated a bit, because after all of these shenanigans, he stayed out very long. He was on the strategy that Carlos should have been. So he when he pitted 2 Inters already, so not like Hamilton, Ocon, and Carlos Sainz that they pitted first for another set of dry tires, and then they pitted for Inters, and then he aquaplaned off the track, and then he did a iRacing rejoin.
Yeah, just a bit.
Just
I mean, there was no looking involved there, was it? It was that rookie panic of I've gone off quick, I've got to get back on, go, and just drove straight over Perez, didn't he?
Yeah, Perez, they crashed. It was quite a big crash. He went off into the air and partially landed on four wheels and continued. But he had, apart from the time that he lost, and he lost a huge amount of time, he then had a 5-second time penalty. So, yeah.
Yeah, not a good weekend for George
to lose. And then Mr. Consistency this weekend, Mr. Esteban Ocon got 3rd place and the last podium place.
To be fair, I watched in Friday practice and he was on it. And he's obviously had one of those weekends where he's just turned up and felt good. Bosh. And he was there all weekend, wasn't he? It wasn't a fluke. It wasn't the rain. He was legit fast.
Totally legit fast all weekend with that car. The car performed quite well, so that this means that the Alpine has quite good mechanical grip. Although it's a track where everyone takes all of their max downforce swings and all that stuff, it doesn't really make
it's
that much
not
difference.
It's non-aero circuit, no.
No, they just get those wings because
they do it because it helps. You know, every little helps.
Yeah, but it's a mechanical grip kind of track, and that car seems to have very good mechanical grip because they were up there with the Mercedes and the Ferraris, and then Aston and Red Bull were on another league, and Red Bull was really on another league in the race mainly.
Yeah.
Which has been kind of the story of the season.
Yeah, race pace and strategy, and it's just the luck's going their way at the minute.
Yeah, definitely. So the last thing that I want to talk about on this podcast is with this result, we have the driver standings are still Max, Sergio, and Fernando. But now this means that Fernando Alonso is closer to Sergio Perez than Sergio Perez is to Max. Is this the first signs that Mr. Sergio Perez is not really going to be much of a threat for the championship? Or is this the start of the downfall of Perez?
I don't think he was a threat for the championship ever. He's had some good races, but he's also looked through his previous career. He's never had a solid season ever. He always has standout performances. but 4 standout performances in a 23 race championship doesn't help.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, Alonso not been off the podium.
Yeah, one time he got a
One time.
4th place in somewhere.
So still
Australia?
a 4th. So
no, not Australia.
So I think
Baku was Baku.
Depending on what happens with Mercedes and Ferrari and how they get their act together, you've got to put Fernando for P2 in the championship.
Really? Even that?
Yeah, he's got the maturity. He's got the experience to bring it. He knows how to win a championship. He's got a car that is strong, because if you look at Lance, I think Lance did full iRacing. He drove a whole lap in the barriers, basically. The amount he bounced off with and the car, all you ever heard was, I've got damage. They were like, yeah, it's all good, keep going. So they've built a strong car. It's a fast car. Fernando knows what to do, and Fernando's also very good at 4th is the best we can do today. He maximises 4th. He doesn't go, I've got to put everything on the line to finish 3rd. When he knows he can't do it, so I think he will go, because Sergio is going to lose his head soon.
And the last question is if he's going to lose his drive and not just his head. I mean, one can take to the other. Let's just say that.
If he has a couple more performances in succession, like this weekend, so we've got another 2 on the bounce, haven't we?
No, we have. It was 3 with Imola, so then we get a bit of a.
So Barcelona, week, then a week, and then Canada,
and then a week, and then Australia, Silverstone, and then there's a double header.
So I think by Silverstone, if he's had weekends like this where he's crashing a lot and not finishing in the points, he'll be gone.
Yeah, maybe we'll still have good old Daniel on the car.
Nah.
Don't you think that they would swap him?
No, I think, much like I said earlier, like Beckham and Ronaldo, they have him there for shirt sales. I think Ricciardo is a PR thing there, and they're using him in that. I don't think from Red Bull's point of view, he was never there to drive the car.
Yeah, and there's a rumor that he went into the simulator and it didn't go all that well. Let's say it was a bit off the pace of Sergio, even. And when I say a bit, I say there's rumors that was painful. Yeah, that might have almost broken him. That those last years at McLaren.
It did. As I say, we all like Dan, and he's. I don't want to say he was a good driver. He was a good driver, but something changed. Whether it's to do with we all know he struggles with how much technology and information is involved on the steering wheels now, and the aptitude to actually perform the tasks under it. Where when he was in a Red Bull, they didn't have as much stuff to adjust on a corner by corner, lap by lap situation. And he himself has said the likes of Lando, who are sim racers, gamers, and the gamer aspect of it is very useful. Look at Piastri. Piastri is hanging on to Lando. He was right behind him in Monaco. Another young guy. He's grown up in the modern style of thing, and I think Danny Rick's just a bit too much of an old man, isn't he?
Yeah,
And he can't adapt.
What do you make about? Yeah, he can't adapt. So that might
that's
mean he's not very
fast.
adaptable.
No, and he happened to be in a Red Bull at a time in a car that suited his driving style that was almost made for him. And it worked. Same as the Renault. The Renault suited his style and they built it around him. And he was quick. Q McLaren, and apart from the misnomer that was Monza, where him and Lando, I think McLaren just hit the sweet spot that weekend with their car somehow.
And let's be honest, it was Danny that won that race because they didn't allow Lando to try and overtake. They just said 1-2.
Yeah, which is, I mean,
it's
if you were a team manager, you'd be sitting there going, "You're not racing."
And they didn't, and Lando took it pretty well. Let's say, I would say.
And, well, it's at the end of the day, it's a team, and the team pays your wages. So, but yeah, so I think Danny Rick, is, yeah, he should have gone.
So then let's play the same game that we played with Ferrari last episode. If Sergio is gone and Mr. Ricardo is not going to that car, who is going to be there? And we can't say Lando again. Although he's probably the most the driver that everyone wants in one of their cars.
I think Red Bull would pay for him. Max would like him there because they're mates.
Yeah.
I know Zach keeps saying that there's no performance clauses in
McLaren. There is.
Bullshit.
It's bullshit. All those top drivers, they have a performance clause, 100%.
The thing is, end of the day, it doesn't matter if there isn't a performance clause. Money talks, and they just pay the contract out and leave. I wouldn't be surprised if, depending on how far in the season it is if they put not Lawson, what's his name? The Red Bull, the junior driver. He drove it at Kota last year. Is it Liam Lawson?
Yeah, it was Lawson. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm getting confused with Sargent. That's it. No, Liam Lawson. I wouldn't be surprised if they put him in.
In the Red Bull? Straight into the Red Bull?
Yeah. They're not going to bring anyone up from Toro Rosso.
I mean, Yuki has been driving well. I don't know if he's a future.
I don't think Yuki has.
Driver,
I don't think Yuki would survive the Red Bull environment.
Oh, definitely.
He's too nice, and I think they know that. So why would they put him in knowing it's going to kill him in 3 races? Where put Lawson in, and if he doesn't do it in 3 races, you can fuck him off, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Let's see. I think they would. I don't know. Unless Sergio really gets on Max's nerves, I don't really see him going off the team now.
No,
only if he starts to play games.
He's a Bottas to a Hamilton now, and
yeah. Only if he gets his head over what his role is in that team.
Yeah, and let's be honest, I think probably the best ever was Barrichello, and signed a contract saying I'm the number 2 driver and I'm going to make that guy win all the races. here's $12 million for your hard work. Do that for 3 or 4 years. That'll do. Thank you very much. And at the same time, you're finishing second. Yeah, he's had his moment, and it's probably not helped by his dad going, "Yeah, we're going to win the championship," because he wants to.
Yeah,
but
that was not a good move.
Just sit where you know your place at the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely. So let's see what happens. So we have Barcelona next this weekend. We have the Mercedes to watch for, and
Right. Well, before you finish, we just have one other thing we have to talk about. Did you see any of the Indy 500?
I saw the start.
Okay. You
I
need to
didn't
go back.
see. You can guide me into this.
You need to go and watch the highlights and watch the
crash. I watched the crash that one of the tires went into the audience.
20. No, it didn't. It missed. It missed the grandstand and hit a
car. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like the last 20 laps. I think it started. That shunt was on lap 14. They ended up having 3 red flags in the last 14 laps.
Oh, I'm definitely watching now.
And then, spoiler alert, they then had an Abu Dhabi 2021 moment where they should have finished. There was 1 lap to go, and they should have finished under yellow, under caution. But they brought him into the pit. They threw the 3rd red flag, brought him into the pit lane with 2 laps to go. And everyone's like, how's this going to work? Because you've got 1 lap and then that. So they sent him from pit lane straight to the green flag lap.
Straight to green flag?
So they didn't even do. And normally, Indy, they do 1 or 2 laps, a minimum of a lap to get tyres up to temperature because of the speed and the danger of the place. But they drove out of pit lane, round, green flag, last lap, checker. 1 lap.
I'm going to watch
you
just
need
when
to
we stop.
Literally those last 4 laps, and it's yeah,
and so, Joseph Newgarden won.
Yeah, so Ericsson was leading when the red flags came out to win it for back-to-back. First person in 20 years, I think, to win it back-to-back. And so he was leading. Newgarden passed him down the back straight, and there's just nothing he could do. So he's obviously in the Hamilton situation where he's going, we've never done a straight to pit lane to green flag lap. He goes, it's dangerous, we shouldn't be doing it. And then you've got Newgarden on the other side who climbed through the catch fencing and ran into the crowd and celebrated in the grandstand wearing his helmet and overalls. He literally got out of the car and ran where Castro Neves climbs the fencing. He slid under the fence and ran into the crowd, and he was in the grandstand celebrating. Yeah, it was. I mean, it was good to watch.
And I'm definitely going to watch as soon as I hit stop. We can watch it together.
So yeah, well done to Newgarden, who that was his 12th attempt at Indy. So
yeah,
well deserved win.
Well done. So yeah, that was the racing for the weekend. But like I was saying, we have Spain next. We have Mercedes to look forward to see how they are in the pecking order after the upgrades, if they worked or not. I would say that the fight for the championship will continue, but I think we could. I think they can
The
start
championship
printing
will
out.
continue.
Yeah, yeah. So they should print. The championship will continue in 2024, but we're having some interesting
It's
races.
not over yet. It's not over yet.
So not over yet. Some stuff can happen reliability wise. Red Bull has been a bit sketchy on the reliability front, mainly in the start of the season. Let's see if Aston can do something about their performance. That might be something to look for as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that although Fernando said that this was the last time that the only place that they could win, I don't think so. I think that they could win in some other places. Probably not at very high speed tracks, but Hungary might be one of the places that they can do something. Barcelona, I can see them doing something at Barcelona. It has a big straight, but it's quite a windy track as well.
I think he'll be up there.
Yeah, and it's Spain, so he'll be up there.
Extra
Zandvoort might be one of those that car might be able to do something. It's a twisty track as well. And Interlagos, of course. Interlagos, although it's a very max track, it's a short lap, and it has a very good middle sector. So I don't know. We might still have the fairy tale Fernando win in an Aston. This season. No. So let's keep praying for the bump draft of some car and mayhem, and then Fernando gets the win that we all want to see. So yeah. So thank you guys for watching and listening. Follow us on social media, subscribe and all that jazz on YouTube. And see you guys next weekend. Bye.
See you later.
Bump Draft and Pray is an independent podcast, and the music was by Letting Punks Know.